Yeah, thank you. So my name is Miki from Wolt. Like every one of us has had this one aha moment when you realize something, and that one aha moment that I had in 2010 was actually the seed what ended up becoming Wolt around 13 months ago when we founded the company. I was visiting a friend in San Francisco who sold his first company to Google and his second company to Groupon. And we were out getting a couple of drinks. We went to his house and we were, sitting there and talking about philosophy and all these things you talk about with people from the tech industry. Everything else except tech. And at the end of the evening, I needed to get a car to get to the rest of my group. And it was like 2 a.m. in the morning. And he said, don't worry, I'll get you a car. And we continue talking, and he looks at his phone for a while, and at some point he says that, okay, a car is coming to pick you up soon, and we go outside, and a car comes in front of us, and it's a black car. I will never forget the creamy, leathery smell of the white, really nice leathery benches in the car. And he said that, Miki, it was really nice to talk with you. It's been a great night. This car will take you wherever you want to go, and it's already paid for. Good night. And that was the first time I tried Uber. Uber was in its beta phase. It wasn't out in the public at that point yet. And I didn't see the app. I didn't know what the experience was for him. And I remember thinking of that experience that I was like playing around my head that this must be some San Francisco 1%er like millionaire service or something, that you have like these hired cars you can share among friends. Like later in that week, I saw the Uber experience on the phone. This was in 2010 spring, and I fell in love. Because I remember thinking that this experience is going to change a lot of consumer industries around the world. Because I, as a consumer, this is what I want. I want this seamless experience on a mobile device where it's super sleek, super simple, payment happens somewhere in the background, and in the real world, I'm able to get a better experience. And that ended up becoming Wolt 13 months ago when we founded the company. A couple of words about myself. I founded my first company about 6 years ago. We were 3 guys, we were 20, we were excited. We made $250,000 in revenue in 6 months. It was a great time, but it wasn't really a scalable thing. So by happenstance, I happened to wander into Silicon Valley. I saw what was happening there, and that was the first time I fell in love in 2009. And when we came back to Helsinki, which is where I'm from, we figured that there's not so much happening in the Nordics, although Spotify and Supercell and Rovio and all these companies come from the Nordics. We started doing a lot of things. One of the things we did was we started an event to bring all the local investors and other people together, and I ran that for the first 4 years, growing the event to 15,000 people. The event is called Slush. It's one of the biggest investor events in the world. I ran that as co-founder and CEO for the past 4 years before starting Wolt. And now getting to Wolt. Okay, Uber-like experience, this is going to change a lot of consumer industries. And that started my thinking process. What do we do every day? Google has a toothbrush test. They say that something that people do twice a day optimally can become a native mobile experience. If it's more rare than that, like getting a dentist's appointment, for instance, it is unlikely that it will become a very sustainable mobile experience in itself. And I figured that we actually eat 3 times a day. I mean, we eat rather often. But it's completely non-digital, the entire world. There's a couple of companies like Just Eat and Delivery Hero that have this web interface for ordering like hangover pizza, like we call it in Helsinki. There's a couple new players like Foodora, Deliveroo, Postmates that offer the same delivery to places that don't do it themselves. But as a user, my perspective on restaurants and on eating out hasn't changed that much. And we figured that, okay, could we make this experience better? Could we make an Uber-like experience for eating out? And I assembled a team. My co-founder, he was the first Apple Design Award winner in the Nordics. He developed his first iPhone app 2 months after the App Store was released. He previously ran a 35-person company just doing mobile software. My other co-founder was the editor-in-chief of a 1.5 million person reader media with an editorial staff of 40 people. And my backend team has a combined experience of 40 years in mobile development in the Finnish gaming industry, among other things. And we had these kind of 3 ideas how we would do this. The first thing was that we have to make a 5-second experience for the user. So if I'm walking on the street and I feel like getting a cup of coffee, getting lunch on the go, sitting down at a restaurant and just getting served right away, it has to be a 5-second experience for regular. So we built that as the user side. Apple gave us the editor's choice. 1 week after we launched, and they promised to feature us in any country we go to, so I guess we made it right on the user side. Our second point was, like with the previous speaker, the merchant experience. We wanted our experience to get an order through us from a mobile device to be easier than to handle a physical order. I guess it is something like that today because we get a tremendously positive feedback from our merchants. And the third thing was that this pre-ordering thing hasn't become a big thing because it's too expensive for the merchants. So we actually went through the battle and got ourselves the same acquiring and PSP rights that Stripe, for instance, has. So we can give lower rates to merchants getting orders through us than their physical credit card providers. After that, when we figured those out, we founded the company last October. We raised $500,000 in seed funding, funded by 2 of the leading venture funds in the Nordics, 2 of the founders of Supercell, if you know the games, Clash of Clans and Heyday, the chairman of Nokia, who started an IPO at a company 5 to 10 years ago. We launched the product during late spring. We have 300 restaurants using the product now after 6 years. We've been growing 15% week over week, every week for 20 weeks now. We're almost profitable only in one city, in Helsinki. 3 weeks ago, we raised an additional round of €2 million of funding, and now we're expanding across Europe. The best places on Wolt are making 25% of their sales through us. The best venue, single venue, is making €400,000 a year only in sales through Wolt. And this is the track record for half a year. Looking at how we see the future evolving, our kind of big vision is that we want to be the interface of how we eat out. And we believe that interface is going to be a mobile device. To speak about the user side, out of all the people that try out Wolt this month, 50% come back next month. 50% from that 100% come back the next month again, and again, and again. And we have data for 6 months that 50% of the users come back every month. So we're talking about forming a habit for the user side. We're still very early. Basically, if you open Wolt in Helsinki, there's 300 restaurants using us. Usually it takes around 5 to 10 seconds and you know when your food is going to be ready. You can take it eaten, so you sit down and you get served and it's paid for when you leave. You can take it takeaway. You can get it delivered by one of our couriers or by the couriers of the restaurant. We don't really care who does the delivery. But we're hard thinking about how we will eat out in the future. And that is us, Wolt. We're 25 people based in Helsinki, and we're hugely excited about what's going to happen in the future with eating. Thank you.
Thanks, that was a great presentation. But maybe it's just me, but I'm slightly unclear actually what Wolt...
Do you want to see the product?
Yes, I'd love to.
That was the answer I was hoping to get.
Oh, right, okay.
I could speculate.
Well, you succeeded.
Is it booking restaurants, or is it ordering food and having a basket that essentially...
Or is it payments?
Is it payments?
Let me show you.
Okay.
Can you hold this?
Of course.
This is the merchant end. So we have 300 of these out. We install it once. It doesn't cost anything for the restaurant. So there's zero setup cost, and there's no monthly fee. It's only transaction fee, and we can match the credit card rates of physical place. As a user, I open the app, I see a list and map of all the nearby places, and if I want to make that famous 5-second repeat order, this is how long it takes. So I would say that's more or less 5 seconds. Once I make the order, it comes instantaneously to the restaurant. Can you show that to the audience? So this is how they see it at the restaurant end. It's like that. Once someone touches the iPad, I as a user see that someone's actually seen that order. Let's hope that I can make the Wi-Fi work here at the venue. But I get a notification a human being has actually seen that order, and I can just flick it here saying that, okay, it's going to be 10 minutes until it's ready. And I get notified, okay, it's going to be ready in 10 minutes. I put the phone in my pocket, and once it's finally ready, I get a push notification saying that, okay, you can go pick it up right now. Pending network capability.
How is this different from Cake or Deliveroo?
Deliveroo is only doing delivery, basically. Delivery is around 1/3 of our volume. So 2/3 of our volume is actually people going to the restaurants. We are a regularity thing. I mean, people at best use it 2 to 3 times a day.
2 to 3 times a day?
Yes. Yes, if you live in a place where there's a lot of Wolt places.
So people in Helsinki can't cook and eat out only? Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, I guess this is a millennial thing. My parents eat out like once a month. I cook food at home once a month.
So is it a restaurant payment app?
I mean, the payment is one thing that happens in the background, but in reality, the thing about this is that it moves the order. This moment when I make this order here, now when I swipe this is the moment when I'm at the counter and I say that I want to have a your choice pizza with bell pepper, shrimp, tuna, and oregano, and a Coke. And I could choose to have it like eat-in, takeaway, or delivered to me. And this moment, when I make the order, is the moment at the counter when I tell what I want. But instead, we move it to a mobile experience. So instead of me having to go there, I can make this happen on the street, for instance. I can be at home, I can be at work. So, we want to be...
Okay, so it's like the Starbucks app where you order the coffee in advance, go pick it up. Yeah, okay.
Starbucks
It works at my local one anyway, so.
Yeah. I mean, what we've noticed with this side is that a lot of people focus on the idea, not on the execution. This is fairly difficult actually to execute, so it actually works, and it's nice for the user, nice for the restaurant to use.
So out of the restaurants you're working with, clearly you've cornered the Helsinki market.
Yeah.
What is some of the experience? What are the positives for the restaurants? Why do they continue to use you? And then from a consumer perspective, I can see it's a great user experience. Yeah. But what's the bottom line for the restaurants?
For the restaurant, we give this device for them for free. They don't have to pay anything up front, and they don't have to pay any recurring fees. So to start testing Wolt, it takes around 15 minutes to set up the menu here, and you're good to go. The thing is that we are providing them with sales. I mean, I've looked through so many loyalty apps and different kinds of services that try to improve the service a little bit. What happens with us is that we change it completely. Around 80% of the non-delivery orders that come through us is extra sales, and delivery is mostly only like extra sales. The best places on Wolt have increased their sales even up to 20%. So we really see like a business value for the places.
Okay, so the real test for you now is deploying and scaling to other cities. So
yes, we're working on 5 different cities.
Which ones are you going to next?
I unfortunately can't disclose that, but we have people on the ground in 5 cities now.
Okay.
The business model is very strong because our own cost per transaction is very low, so we make money on every transaction, but at the same time we can be very competitive on the pricing. The transaction side, being too expensive for the merchant, has been one of the reasons why this hasn't happened actually. So looking at the competition, there's a lot of delivery players, there's legacy players like Just Eat, but for what we do, I mean, from the restaurant perspective, there's pretty much no competition at the moment.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was brilliant. And your pizza will be with you soon.